Okay.
This is the meeting of the Executive Cabinet Member for Climate Change and Environment taking place on Monday, the 28th of July, 2025. I am Councillor Richard Sylvester, the Executive Cabinet Member, and I'd like to welcome councillors and officers of Bolton Council to this meeting and members of the public if you're watching the recorded version on the Bolton Council YouTube channel. Item 1 on the agenda is the monitoring of Executive Cabinet Member decisions. This report was sent out by email prior to the meeting, by email. So on the monitoring report, I see that on pages 4 and 5, there are 2 completed items which can be removed for the next meeting. Those items, page 4 was the Director of Play Strategic Budget Report 25-26. That was agreed on the 10th of March 25. And on page 5, the Directorate of Place Finance Report 24-25 outturn, which was agreed on the 16th of June 25. Have any members on the call got any questions regarding the monitoring report or any observations? No? Okay, so I'll note that monitoring report. Item 2 on the agenda is the Local Nature Reserve Strategy. And therefore we'll go over to, actually it's the Local Nature Recovery Strategy. And we'll go over to John Gregory, who will take us through this report.
Thank you, Councillor Sylvester. So, you've all seen the report. This report specifically relates to a requirement under the Environment Act 2021. That Act created 48 strategy areas across England, including one for Greater Manchester, where local nature recovery strategies needed to be developed. The strategies are around helping nature and the natural biodiversity across different boroughs to recover from the state that it's currently in at the moment. So there's a number of measures within nature recovery strategies that help different species recover from the position that they're currently in at the moment. So this is a piece of work that's been undertaken by the Combined Authority. There's been a very extensive piece of consultation carried out across all 10 authorities, including Bolton. So we've been well cited on the draft document, the draft strategy, and all the inputs from all 10 boroughs have been included in that strategy. I would say as well that it complements the draft green space strategy that's currently out to consultation as well. So it's referred to in the draft green space strategy, and the 2 documents complement each other in the aims and objectives in relation to biodiversity and nature recovery. So we're at the latest and the last stage prior to publication of the strategy. The Combined Authority are required to ask for permission from all 10 Greater Manchester authorities to publish this strategy, and that's what I'm coming to you today for, Councillor, for permission on behalf of the Combined Authority for permission for this strategy to be published. It's almost like a sort of last minute check to see that we are happy with the content of that strategy. We did mention this in informal last week. You might think it's a little bit odd that the actual strategy itself is not attached to the report, but after getting some legal advice, actually if we attach it to the report, we'd be jumping the gun and publishing it ourselves. What the Combined Authority are asking for is permission to publish the strategy, and then it will be going live on our website and on the Combined Authority's website. So if you're happy for this strategy to be published, I've drafted a letter for the Chief Exec to write to the Mayor of Greater Manchester, giving permission for the document to be published. So that's the top and bottom of the report. If you have any questions, obviously I'm happy to answer them.
Well, thank you for that, John. Any questions for John from members on the call regarding the report in front of us? And we'll go over to Councillor Hewitt, who's indicated.
You're on mute, Councillor Hewitt, yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you, Executive Cabinet Member, and thank you, John, for the overview of the report. Just zoning in on item 2.9 around the opportunity areas, and I'm sort of concerned that it sort of says they're not designated or they're not protected within the strategy. Is there anything that I'm thinking here with a view towards sort of like local plan framing and that sort of and those elements that have sort of, obviously it says in the report that this will be referenced to in the local plan, but I think that the public expectation might be that if you're trying to reinforce the current network of sort of green links around the conurbation, both in Bolton and Greater Manchester, and in the opportunity areas as well, they might find it worrying that there's no conservationary element to sort of like the opportunity areas in that respect. So can you reassure, or can there be some reassurance given that we can tackle this? Because my worry is that we'll frame the local plan and then it will refer back to this document, and the local plan will say, well, refer to this document, and well, then there's no protections in place. Now it does mention offsite. So second part of this question sort of says offsite biodiversity targeting would be an element of these sort of areas. And I just want to ask, obviously that's, I'm assuming, coming into those areas to enhance and protect and increase the diversity. So if you can just sort of expand on those 2 points, that would be really appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So if you look at section 2.11, 2 paragraphs down, that outlines the opportunity areas that have been identified in the report within Bolton, and they are just examples. There are a number more. So as part of the development of this plan, the combined authority basically did a GM-wide survey of all the areas where there were potential, and it is potential opportunities to increase biodiversity, increase habitats for certain species which have been on the decline over the last 15 to 20 years. Now, some of those areas are not in the control of the council, as it says, you know, there's farmland and wetland and areas that are not in control of the council. Some of those areas are in control of the council. If you look at that list, a short list at 2.11, references key wildlife corridors such as the Kingfisher Trail through Moses Gate and 7 Acres, the Upper Bradshaw Valley, and sections of the southern Pennine Moors around Smithills and areas close to Horwich and West Hawks.
Yes.
Just a little sort of dip sample in there of the areas that we're talking about. It doesn't offer any protection. The fact that they are referred to as opportunity areas doesn't offer any protection on its own, but it does highlight those areas as potentially valuable, you know, for increasing biodiversity, as I've mentioned.
Yeah,
I don't want to confuse too much this with biodiversity net gain. It's a slightly separate, but similar, I suppose, similar aims with biodiversity net gain, but a slightly different route. We are doing some, in parallel to this, we're doing some work around identifying ideal off-site sites for biodiversity net gain. We're not going straight into the nature reserves for bio net gain, because the nature reserves that we've got are already good habitats. What we're looking for is areas where we can develop further habitats or develop the habitats that already exist, because biodiversity net gain imposes on us a 10% increase in biodiversity in those areas. So we have to look for somewhere that we can do some improvements and that we can use, you know, the income from those that biodiversity units to increase that. So I don't want to confuse the two slightly separate routes to obtaining nature recovery and biodiversity recovery. In this case, this is an overarching strategy which has I suppose, in terms of, you know, you're asking, does it bring any protection with it? It doesn't bring any protection with it, but within our draft green space strategy is a key strategic aim to keep our green spaces and nature reserves protected for future generations. So there is, it does strengthen our sort of argument, if you like, that we should be protecting those green spaces and parks. I suppose it's a long way of saying no, there isn't any protection built into it, but that's something that's within our gift in applying these strategies.
Do you want to continue, Councillor Hewitt?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, thank you for the clarification on that particular point, John. I suppose when I went to the GM website to look at the sort of the draft of the strategy, because it is there and it's there to be seen, and you can sort of like review the mapping, and it's not quite, it's not, the resolution isn't great, but you can see the corridors that are trying to join up the sort of like out from the radial centre and radially up through, say, like the rivers, or sort of like from 7 acres up and into sort of like Harwood, Bradshaw, and that sort of thing. And in the west of the borough, vast swathes of sort of like sort of around West Orton, around Heaton up into sort of Smithills and Astley Bridge and Horwich as well, are all sort of you can see categorized there. And I think it would behoove us to sort of use those as a target in a way, to increase the protection, or at least heighten. My concern is development in those areas will contribute to a loss of those natural environments in the state of the nature report, which is referenced at the beginning of the report here at this cabinet. It sort of it highlights the sort of the different land uses, and one of them is agricultural land. And obviously my concern is that without those protections in the supplementary documents, in the green space strategy, and certainly in our local plan, that these areas won't benefit from the legislation of sort of increasing the diversity in those areas. So I'm concerned that the strategy doesn't go far enough, but it's a step forward, if you like, in the right direction.
John or any other officer, do you wish to answer those points? Yes, Director.
John, mute, John.
We've all been there.
Apologies, it's catching this evening. So thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Hewitt, for your questions and comments. I probably didn't want to respond specifically because John is closer to the detail of the what is presently the draft local nature recovery strategy, but probably just wanted to reiterate that point around in bringing forward the proposal this evening for the council to confirm its authority, if you wish, to move ahead and publish the local nature recovery strategy. We are, I guess, by definition, adopting across the city region and therefore locally the strategy as a key reference point. And I think the point that John raised earlier around the council is presently out of public consultation on its own green space strategy. These are documents that we will have to have due regard to moving forward. So I understand the concern, Councillor Hewitt, in relation to the potential implications of future developments and how it might compromise, I suppose, the aspirations of the local nature recovery strategy, which ultimately, as John indicated at the start of his presentation, is to both prevent further decline in relation to nature, biodiversity, local habitats, but ultimately and over time, I guess, to enhance and to not so much rebirth, but certainly bring back into play new species, new habitats, which perhaps have been threatened over more recent times. I think the key point in relation to the local plan, and you will be aware from recent PDGs and presentations, we are still at a very early stage in terms of development of the local plan. But really, I just wanted to offer reassurance that our green space team, through John, are connected into that process. And as part of future consultation exercises, and there will be a number over the course of the plan's developments, but also through internal officer discussions, we will, as in the green space team, will have the opportunity to, I guess, ensure there is an interface between the emerging local plan and some of these key policy requirements, both at a city region level and local level, assuming here that our green space strategy is ultimately adopted following the public consultation exercise. So I'm probably not answering the question directly, but merely trying to offer reassurance, if I may, that certainly across the directorate in my case, conversations are in play, and consultation includes consultation with internal services and stakeholders as well, which will afford us the opportunity, as I say, to ensure that these key strategies are certainly referenced as the local plan begins to emerge. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Director. Any further questions from any other members on the call regarding the report? Are you also happy with that answer, Councillor Hewitt?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. No, just a final comment. Thanks, John, for the answer. And I think it's really important that we're robust as a council when we're forming the local plan. That okay, yeah, these are reference documents, but that we go that step further and ensure that we're conserving certain parts of our environment that have more bang for our buck, if that makes sense. You know, the strategy doesn't sort of mention the green belt, but one of the key elements of the green belt is to, you know, conserve the natural environment around urban centres and prevent that urban sprawl. So it feels like it's. I'm just concerned, if that makes sense, but I understand where we're going for. So thank you for your leeway, Executive Cabinet Member.
Thank you for making those important points. And officers are listening to each one of those points which you've made and taking it in. Assistant Director has now indicated, Gary Parker.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. We've mentioned the local plan, you know, the planning strategy. We've got the green space strategy, but you know, let's also recognise the work that we're doing with Bolton Green Umbrella, our volunteers, Lancashire Wildlife Trust. So there's an awful lot of work and there's an awful lot of investment that the Labour leadership team have put into these, created funds for, and ported those through to the relevant groups to make sure we are investing in things like our SSSI sites, our volunteer groups, our willow tip populations. So there's an awful lot of work going on at the moment where we are protecting those and are looking to further protect those, you know, with the funding and the resources that we've got. So I know John and the team are very, very engaged with that. I've been connected to some of that work already with Lancashire Wildlife Trust, but there is an awful lot of work going on, and I think everybody in this conversation is after the same thing, and we have got those sort of layers of protection across that area. Just wanted to add that in, Chair. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Appreciated, Assistant Director. So if there are not any more questions and officers have taken those points in which you've made, Councillor Hewitt, I am recommended, and I will agree that I am content for the local nature recovery strategy to be published, and I authorise the Chief Executive to confirm the same in writing to the Greater Manchester Combined Authority and to the Greater Manchester Mayor as the responsible body for the Greater Manchester Local Nature Recovery Strategy. So I've agreed that and authorised it. Okay, brilliant. So that's the end of the meeting. That's the only two items of business which we had. So can I thank officers and councillors on the call for attending today, and also members of the public if you're watching this recorded version. Thank you, and I'll see you at the next Executive Cabinet Member meeting.
Okay, thank you. I'll just stop the recording.